Why are Iran and Israel always at the edge of conflict? Why do they see each other not just as rivals but as existential threats? To understand this, we need to go back, before missiles, before revolutions, before the State of Israel even existed. This is the full story from secret allies to sworn enemies. Let's fly into the heart of a modern conflict rooted in deep history. The current hostility between Iran and Israel represents one of the most complex geopolitical rivalries in the modern Middle East. What makes this conflict particularly striking is that these nations were not always enemies. For nearly 3 decades, Iran and Israel maintained a strategic partnership that defied conventional Middle Eastern politics. Understanding how these former allies became bitter adversaries requires examining religious ideology, geopolitical strategy, and regional power dynamics that have evolved for decades. The transformation from cooperation to confrontation was not inevitable. Rather, it resulted from fundamental shifts in Iran's political system, combined with evolving regional dynamics and escalating proxy conflicts that have brought both nations to the precipice of direct military confrontation. Today, as tensions reach unprecedented levels, the specter of war looms large over the Middle East. The era of cooperation, Iran and Israel as strategic partners, from the early 1950s until the Iranian Revolution of 1979, these two known Arab nations found common cause in shared strategic interests and mutual concerns about Arab nationalism and Soviet influence in the Middle East. The partnership's foundation was laid during Mohammad Reza Pahlavi's reign, the Shah of Iran, who came to power with Western support following the 1953 CIA-orchestrated coup that overthrew Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. The Shah's Iran was a modernizing, secular monarchy aligned with Western interests. Israel, struggling to establish legitimacy in a hostile neighborhood, found in Iran a valuable non-Arab ally. The relationship was multifaceted and extensive. Diplomatically, Iran was among the first Muslim-majority countries to recognize Israel in 1950, just 2 years after Israel's establishment. This represented genuine strategic calculation by Iranian leadership that saw Israel as a partner in balancing Arab power. Economically, Iran became one of Israel's primary oil suppliers. This energy partnership was crucial for Israel's development, while providing Iran valuable foreign currency and technological expertise. Israeli companies invested in Iranian infrastructure, creating economic interdependencies that cemented the political relationship. Most significantly, military and intelligence cooperation was extensive. The countries shared intelligence about common threats, particularly Arab nationalist movements and Soviet activities. Israeli military advisors helped train Iranian forces, while Iran provided Israel access to intelligence about Arab military capability. This cooperation extended to joint operations and strategic planning during the Cold War era. The partnership reflected broader regional dynamics and external power influence. Both countries were aligned with the United States during the Cold War, and their cooperation served American interests in containing Soviet influence and Arab nationalism. The relationship was embedded within Western-oriented regional security arrangements. The revolutionary transformation. How 1979 changed everything. The Iranian Revolution of 1979 represents the most important turning point in Iran-Israel relations, fundamentally altering the bilateral relationship and the entire Middle Eastern strategic landscape. The revolution, bringing Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini to power, was not merely governmental change. It completely transformed Iran's political system, ideology, and foreign policy orientation. The Islamic Revolution emerged from domestic grievances against the Shah's rule, including authoritarian governance, economic inequality, and perceived loss of sovereignty to foreign influence. However, the revolution's impact extended beyond Iran's borders, as the new Islamic Republic adopted revolutionary ideology that explicitly challenged the existing regional order and positioned Iran as leader of Islamic awakening against Western imperialism and Zayed. Khomeini's worldview was fundamentally incompatible with the pragmatic partnership characterizing Iran-Israel relations under the Shah. The new Iranian leadership viewed Israel not merely as a regional competitor, but as an illegitimate entity representing Western colonialism and Muslim oppression. This ideological opposition became a founding principle of the Islamic Republic. The transformation was swift and dramatic. Within months, Iran severed diplomatic relations with Israel, closed the Israeli embassy, and handed the building to the Palestine Liberation Organization. Iranian oil exports to Israel ceased. Economic ties terminated, and extensive military cooperation was abandoned. Iran began positioning itself as leader of regional resistance to Israeli policies and American influence. The new government's hostility toward Israel was not merely rhetorical. The Islamic Republic began providing material support to Palestinian militant groups, including funding, weapons, and training. Under the Islamic Republic, support for Palestinian resistance became an active policy priority, evolving into comprehensive strategy supporting anti-Israeli groups throughout the region. The emergence of proxy warfare and regional competition, the 1980s, marked the beginning of what would become a defining characteristic of Iran-Israel relations. Proxy forces and indirect confrontation rather than direct military engagement. This period saw sophisticated networks of allied groups develop, allowing both countries to pursue objectives while avoiding direct warfare risks. Iran's proxy warfare strategy took shape during the Iran-Iraq War, when the Islamic Republic found itself internationally isolated, facing a well-armed Iraqi military supported by Western and Arab nations. Fighting a conventional war under sanctions taught Iranian leaders valuable lessons about asymmetric warfare and non-state allies' utility. The most significant development was Iran's role creating and supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon. Following Israel's 1982 invasion of Lebanon, Iran saw opportunity to establish a foothold on Israel's northern border. Iranian Revolutionary Guards deployed to Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, training and equipping Shia militants, who eventually coalesced into Hezbollah. Hezbollah's emergence represented a new phase in Iran-Israel competition. Unlike previous Arab-Israeli conflicts, primarily state-to-state confrontations, the Iran-Hezbollah relationship introduced a warfare model combining state sponsorship with non-state capabilities. This allowed Iran to project power against Israel while maintaining plausible deniability. Iran's support for Palestinian militant groups also expanded significantly. The 1980s saw substantial material assistance to groups like Islamic Jihad and later Hamas, including funding, weapons, training, and strategic coordination, enhancing their capabilities against Israeli targets. The nuclear dimension, a game-changing development. Iran's nuclear program emergence as a central Middle Eastern security issue fundamentally altered the strategic balance and introduced new competition dimensions. While Iran's nuclear activities began during the Shah's era with American support, the program took on different strategic implications under the Islamic Republic. Israel's concerns were rooted in strategic and existential considerations. As a small country with concentrated population and limited strategic depth, Israel viewed nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat. This assessment was reinforced by Iranian rhetoric calling for Israel's destruction and support for groups attacking Israeli civilians. The discovery of undeclared nuclear facilities at Natanz and Arak in 2002 marked a turning point in international awareness, leading to increased scrutiny from the International Atomic Energy Agency. Iran's response reflected broader competition dynamics with Israel and the United States, choosing to accelerate its program while engaging in diplomatic negotiations, many viewed as buying time. Israel's response involved multiple strategies: diplomatic efforts, building international pressure, intelligence operations disrupting Iranian nuclear activities, and developing military capabilities for preventive strikes. The Stuxnet computer virus damaging Iranian nuclear centrifuges in 2010 represented new warfare combining cyber capabilities with traditional intelligence operations, regional proxy networks, and the axis of resistance. From the 1990s onward, Iran developed what leaders termed the axis of resistance, a network of allied groups sharing Iran's opposition to Israeli and American Middle Eastern influence. This became the primary mechanism through which Iran projected regional power and maintained pressure on Israel without direct military confrontation. Hezbollah remained the crown jewel of Iran's proxy network, evolving into what many considered the most powerful non-state military force globally. Iranian support enabled Hezbollah to acquire rocket and missile arsenals reaching targets throughout Israel, while developing sophisticated military capabilities rivaling state armies. Iran's Syrian civil war involvement, beginning in 2011, marked significant regional presence expansion, bringing Iranian forces and proxies into direct proximity with Israeli territory. Iran's Assad government support included Revolutionary Guards, deployment and military infrastructure establishment that Israel viewed as direct security threats. Israel responded with hundreds of airstrikes against Iranian and Hezbollah targets in Syria, creating a new competition front, bringing the countries closer to direct military confrontation than any time since the Iranian Revolution. Recent escalations and the path to current crisis, the period from 2020 to present, witnessed dramatic escalation in Iran-Israel tensions, marked by increasingly direct confrontations and breakdown of previous constraints, limiting their competition scope. The November 2020 assassination of Iranian nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, widely attributed to Israel, marked significant escalation in covert competition. The sophisticated attack demonstrated advanced capabilities both sides were willing to deploy. The October 7, 2023, Hamas attack on Israel and subsequent Israeli military response created new dynamics, bringing the countries closer to direct confrontation than in decades. Iran's response included increased support for its proxy network throughout the region, with coordinated responses demonstrating operational integration. The April 2024 Iranian attack on Israel, involving hundreds of drones and missiles, represented a watershed moment. While causing limited damage due to Israeli defenses, it crossed previous red lines, demonstrating Iran's willingness to engage in direct military confrontation. Conclusion: understanding the current crisis, the transformation of Iran and Israel from strategic partners to bitter adversaries represents one of the most significant Middle Eastern geopolitical shifts over the past half-century. This evolution was not inevitable, but resulted from fundamental changes in political systems, ideological orientations, and strategic calculations, creating seemingly irreconcilable differences. The current crisis reflects decades of competition, proxy warfare, and escalating tensions, bringing both countries to the brink of direct military confrontation. Understanding this historical trajectory is essential for comprehending the current crisis and evaluating potential paths forward. The current moment represents a critical juncture in Iran-Israel relations and broader Middle Eastern stability. Whether the countries can step back from war, Brink will have profound implications, not only for the Middle East, but for global security and stability in years to come. If this episode helped you understand what's really going on, hit that like, share it with someone who needs context, and subscribe for more unfiltered history. Because when the world's on fire, I'll tell you what happened.